I need you all in or full out. Don't leave me halfway across the world.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Garden Variety Ethics. In this video, I'm going to resume my discussion of health reasons to adopt a vegan diet. In my last video on health, I made a number of disclaimers and qualifications regarding the information I provided, and those will still apply here. If you haven't watched it or forgotten, I'd recommend watching the video. But basically, I said I'm not a medical doctor or expert, and I discussed cherry picking, biases, reputable sources of information. On second thought, you should just go watch it. There's a lot of good stuff there. Anyhow, let's get into the science. The first thing to recognize with dairy is that a majority of the world is lactose intolerant after infancy. Certain populations of Northern and Western Europeans, Africans, and South Asians have genetically developed the capacity to digest lactose after infancy and into adulthood. Yet most people have adverse reactions to eating or drinking dairy products, such as abdominal pain, bloating, gas, and diarrhea. I remember as a kid having a lot of stomach issues. My most vivid memory was when I was a teenager, having lunch over at a friend's. I had a quesadilla with a large glass of milk, and sure enough, I proceeded to transform his kitchen into a Dutch oven, and finally made the connection for myself. That's just anecdotal, of course, but my point is that there's nothing necessarily natural about eating or drinking dairy products. Not that all things that are natural are good. Even exposure to the most natural uranium can give you an extra appendage. Anyway, only a minority of the world population develop lactase persistence, as it's called, only recently in human history, around 10 to 20,000 years ago. Dairy is by no means a necessary component of human nutrition, and for those who can't digest the lactose in it, it can lead to problems. Speaking of dairy as a necessary component of human nutrition, we've all been told that dairy does the body good, and is the best source of calcium. Yet now there's data that provides evidence to the contrary. Regarding calcium, leafy greens, members of the Brassica genus, such as broccoli, Brussels sprouts, or cabbage, as well as beans have moderate quantities of calcium. In addition, according to the Harvard School of Public Health, the bioavailability, or capacity for the body to absorb and digest, is improved by vitamin K, which is found in leafy greens. On the other hand, bioavailability is hampered by retinol, a form of vitamin A found only in animal products including milk. Vegetables, especially green leafy ones, contain high amounts of vitamin A, but it's in the form of beta-carotene, which is not shown to increase fracture risk. A caveat to calcium absorption is in leafy greens oxalic acid, which is formed from oxalates found especially in spinach and chard, which reduce bioavailability. In any case, moving from possible mechanisms to data, according to this cohort study of 43,000, which controlled for age, BMI, physical activity, etc., participants who consumed 2.5 glasses of milk or greater suffered the same number of hip and forearm fractures, a correlate of low bone strength, as those who drank 1 glass of milk a day. And according to this Harvard cohort study of 96,000 health professionals, in which they collected dairy intake from teenage years and then tracked bone fractures later in life, no difference in women and even a significant increase was found for men with increased milk consumption on bone fractures. In Table 2, you can see the number of hip fractures as a function of teenage milk consumption. For men, both the basic model, which accounts only for age, and the multivariate model, which accounts for a whole host of dietary factors, smoking, exercise, etc., show significantly decreased fracture risk in low consumption and significantly increased risk in higher consumption. In the multivariate model, the effect is amplified, with a 25% decreased risk in those drinking fewer than 2 glasses a week relative to those drinking 1 glass a day, and a 21% chance increase in those drinking 4 or more glasses a day relative to those drinking 1 glass a day. For women, no such effect is observed. The authors guess that, considering in adolescence 95% of adult bone mineral content is accrued, the critical period for females will be sooner than that of males, and the 13 to 18 age measurement window reflects that difference in the data for males and females. So given this evidence, it's not clear that increased milk consumption improves bone strength, and there's even data suggesting the reverse is true. Now what about doing the body good? According to Harvard School of Public Health, there is a probable relation that exists between dairy and prostate cancer. In their study of male health professionals, men who drank 2 or more glasses of milk a day were almost twice as likely to develop advanced prostate cancer as those who didn't drink milk at all. They qualify the risk as possibly being the result of the high calcium content of dairy products, rather than just dairy itself. Still, this meta-analysis, which evaluated 13 prospective cohort studies, found a dose-dependent increase in prostate cancer with dairy consumption, with 12% risk increase between those consuming the least dairy relative to those consuming the most dairy. In the study, they don't quantify the actual amounts of dairy consumption, but instead break up the risk of prostate cancer into quintiles by dairy consumption. The authors attempt to explain the results through calcium, as well as hormones that are found in dairy products, specifically 17-beta estradiol in milk, an estrogen which is known to be carcinogenic for hormone-related cancers, such as breast, ovary, and prostate cancer. More specifically, authors of this study in rats concluded, in total, these findings indicate that low-dose exposures to ubiquitous environmental estrogens affect the prostate epigenome during development and in doing so promote prostate disease with aging. I can't say I really understand everything going on in this study, but there seems to be good evidence that hormones such as estrogen play important roles in the development of certain cancers. The Harvard School of Public Health article on dairy also includes a probable relation between dairy and ovarian cancer, and mentions the hormonal component might play a role. I would go into the studies, but this explanation coheres well with the development of other hormone-related cancers such as prostate cancer. The last thing I'll talk about is saturated fat, cholesterol, and trans fat in animal products. Yes, there are the ever so infamous trans fats in animal products, and not in insignificant amounts either. This table from the USDA highlights percentages from various animal products, and this European study did the same, finding trans fat ranges of milk, butter, and cheeses as a percentage of total fat between 3 to 6%, beef between 3 to 9%, lamb 4 to 9%, and pork and chicken around 0.2 to 2%. You usually don't find any trans fats on the nutrition facts of foods with animal products because companies aren't legally required to include the number if it's less than half a gram per serving. But for reference, according to the USDA, a 3-ounce serving of 80% lean ground beef has about 1 gram of trans fat in it. As I discussed in my last health video, there's evidence that the saturated fat and cholesterol in animal products are contributing factors to cardiovascular and other diseases. The same is found for trans fats. A panel convened by the National Academy of Sciences, the most respected and prestigious scientific branch of the United States government, in its evaluation of dietary intakes concluded, trans fatty acids are not essential and provide no known benefit to human health. Therefore, no AI, adequate intake, or RDA, recommended daily allowance, is set. As with saturated fatty acids, there is a positive linear trend between trans fatty acid intake and LDL cholesterol concentration, and therefore increased risk of coronary heart disease. A UL upper limit is not set for trans fatty acids because any incremental increase in trans fatty acid intake increases coronary heart disease risk. While most trans fats you've heard probably come from highly processed, partially hydrogenated vegetable oils added to packaged foods, this study finds that trans fats, irrespective of source, be it animal or vegetable origin, increases risk of cardiovascular disease. So that's all that I have for today. As usual, let me know if you disagree or have any evidence to the contrary. I'm happy to discuss in the comment section. Next week, I plan on discussing the recent E. coli outbreak, where I hope to shed some light on why it happened, where it originated, and how we might go about preventing outbreaks in the future. See you then.